As we have been talking about on the channel for the past month or so, the Pokemon Sword and Shield expansion looks pretty freaking incredible, and the reason why it looks so amazing is because they are doing so many unprecedented things with it, like for instance introducing Galarian, or regional variant for that matter, legendary Pokemon. Regional variant legendary Pokemon is something that absolutely no one considered as an actual possibility before it was shown right before our eyes in the Expansion Pass reveal trailer. So now that we know that it officially can be a thing, it got me thinking, what other legendary Pokemon, aside from the legendary birds, would be awesome to see in a regional variant or Galarian form? Well, you guys know the drill because that is exactly what we're going to be talking about today. In this video, I'm going to be going over my personal top 5 legendary Pokemon that I would like to see get a Galarian form in the Pokemon Sword and Shield expansions. So I feel like I need to be pretty clear here that this video is mostly just for fun, because as I'm sure you can probably all imagine, regional variant legendary Pokemon are most assuredly going to be very few and far between. So I'm not really saying that all of these are definitely going to happen, rather I'm just saying that I feel like it would be cool if they did happen, and that it is somewhat possible given their various circumstances. So with that disclaimer in mind and with everything else taken care of, why don't we go ahead and jump right in. Okay, so starting off the list at number 5, we have the idea of Galarian forms for the legendary beasts Entei, Suicune, and Raikou. Now this one does have a very good reason as to why it is at the bottom of the list at number 5, and that would be due to the lore behind the legendary beasts. Personally, I really don't feel it's likely at all that these guys could get regional variants when their whole creation story has to do with them originating from some unknown Pokemon in the burned tower at the point that it was burned to the ground. So because of that reason, I just don't feel like Galarian forms for the legendary beasts are very likely at all, but at the same time, I cannot deny that they would be absolutely incredible if they were to somehow happen. I will also say that even though they are at the lowest spot on this list, that I do feel like they are somewhat more likely than some of the other legendaries that we have to choose from, and there are some bits of information within the Pokédex, for instance, that do suggest that more than one of these legendary beasts could exist, like Entei's Pokédex entry, for instance, talking about one is born every time a volcano erupts or something like that. So all things considered, I don't think it's completely impossible, and it would be absolutely amazing if it were to happen. I just don't think it's very likely. Since we're talking about the Generation 2 legendaries, we might as well talk about one more, with Galarian Hooh coming in at number 4. Now, if you guys have been watching some of my more recent videos, you might have seen the one where I talked about the possibility of a Galarian Lugia, and if Galarian Lugia were to be a thing and is even possible at all, then I definitely feel like Galarian Hooh could happen as well. Even though it is still one of the more unlikely picks on this list, I do feel like Galarian Hooh could happen just because of the simple fact that it is one of the most iconic legendary Pokemon of all time, and it's also one of the very first ones that was ever seen ever, despite being in Generation 2, because of its presence in the very first episode of the Pokemon anime. So in that sense, I feel like Hooh is just as iconic and important as any of the Generation 1 Pokemon, and we of course know how Game Freak loves to play favorites when it comes to Gen 1 Pokemon. So on that reason alone, I feel like it at least has a shot. It also goes without saying that a Galarian form for Hooh would be absolutely phenomenal, much like it would for the legendary beasts, as I said earlier. The one thing though that I kind of feel like takes Hooh out of this conversation a little bit is the fact that, as far as we can tell, it seems like Hooh is the only one of its kind. Now this is a big gray area when it comes to each individual legendary Pokemon, but as far as we can tell, it does seem like Hooh is only one of a kind in its own case, and obviously because of that, it would be kind of hard for it to have a regional variant on top of that. So because of that specific reason, even though I do feel like it would be absolutely amazing, it does have to stay at this lower point on the list. Getting towards the middle of the list at number 3 are a pair of Pokemon that I feel like are just as likely to receive a regional variant form as any other legendary Pokemon, and that would be Latias and Latios. Now, much like Ho-Oh, there isn't really anything to say in the case of Latias and Latios as far as whether or not there is more than one of them in existence, but obviously, as I just said, that is a very gray area for every legendary Pokemon, and for instance, we did not even know that it was possible for the Galarian legendary birds before it was actually revealed to be the case with the reveal of their Galarian forms. So with that being said, I kind of just have a hunch that it could be very possible for Latias and Latios specifically. They do absolutely seem like the kind of Pokemon that could get this kind of treatment. They do seem like the kind of legendary Pokemon where more than one of them could exist if that hasn't been confirmed already, and overall I just feel like it would be a really solid choice amongst all of the other legendary Pokemon out there. And as with basically every single legendary Pokemon in existence, it would also be fantastic to receive Galarian forms of them as well, and I'm sure whatever they ended up looking like if they were to actually happen, they would look absolutely phenomenal. So for all of those reasons, I feel like a Galarian Latias and Latios would be a perfect fit in this situation, and is just as likely to happen as anything else. Another set of legendary Pokemon that I feel like would make all the sense in the world if we were to get more regional variant legendaries would be Galarian forms of the Lake Guardians, Uxie, Azelf, and Mesprit. And I think it's pretty obvious as to why these guys would be a perfect fit, because with Pokemon Diamond and Pearl remakes seeming like they are imminent and maybe even coming as soon as next year, giving the legendary trio of those games Galarian forms in these games would be the absolute perfect tie-in, homage, hint towards the Diamond and Pearl remakes, whatever you want to call it, and would just make both games that much more better. The reason is because on the Pokemon Sword and Shield side of things, that would obviously give us one more set of regional variant legendary Pokemon to find and capture and maybe even have some lore about, which would be fantastic, but then on the Diamond and Pearl side of things, naturally those would be incorporated along with the standard forms of Uxie, Azelf, and Mesprit, and being able to find both versions of those legendary Pokemon with maybe a little bit of story to explain the relationship between the variants and the originals would be mind-blowingly amazing. This does seem like a little bit too much of wishful thinking for it to actually happen, but since we know that regional variant legendaries are officially a thing and it would just be absolutely perfect timing, like I said, for both games, I really don't see any reason why it should not happen, and even if it is somewhat unlikely, I am certainly going to hope for it because it would be amazing. And my number one pick is a Pokemon that I actually mentioned already earlier in this video, believe it or not, and that would be none other than Lugia. As I mentioned, I talked about in a previous video about the idea or possibility of a Galarian Lugia, and to me it just makes all the sense in the world, even more so than the Lake Guardians. At the risk of repeating myself again from that previous video, we already know that more than one Lugia exists thanks to the anime. It obviously is the trio master of the legendary birds who already have Galarian forms themselves, and number 3, we have seen Lugia take a different form one other time within the history of Pokemon, and that would be the form of Shadow Lugia in Pokemon XD Gale of Darkness. And it just so happens that the man who designed Shadow Lugia, James Turner, is also the art director of Pokemon Sword and Shield. So all of the stars in this situation just line up perfectly for a Galarian Lugia to happen, and much like all of the other picks on this list, a Galarian Lugia would be incredible. For as perfect and amazing as this all seems though, it is just as much of a shot in the dark as anything else, because this whole idea of regional variant legendaries is still so new, and they're obviously going to be, much like legendary Pokemon, very few and far between. However, even if we only get one more past just the legendary birds, I absolutely believe that that one more Pokemon should be Lugia because it absolutely fits unbelievably perfectly. With that said though, those are my top 5 legendary Pokemon that I think could get a Galarian form in the Pokemon Sword and Shield expansion. If you guys enjoyed the video, be sure to give it a like and let me know all of your thoughts about all of this in the comments below. Do you feel like these legendaries could get a Galarian form, or do you have an idea for another legendary that you think is more likely? Let me know, and if you are new to the channel as well, be sure to subscribe for more Pokemon content all the time. If you'd like to support the channel further as well, you can do so by checking out my Pokemon remixes on Spotify, and by giving my Pokemon Cardinal project a watch if you haven't yet. With all of that being said though, I will be back on Tuesday with another video, so be sure to hit that notification bell so you can be notified as soon as it goes live. And with all of that being said, I hope you know I love you guys very much, and until the next one, as always, I will smell you guys later.